There we are. Okay, welcome to Positive Parenting. And we are here live with Jessica Ballard and talking about parenting your Gemini child. And I'm so excited because I am a Gemini and I get to hear all about my childhood and the things my parents did great and not so great with raising me, and the qualities and personality and all of that stuff. So I'm really excited to have Jessica Ballard here from Starflower Services, who is our cosmic gardener. And she will start us off with just giving us a little overview about what to expect from our Gemini sun or moon. Go ahead, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thinking about Gemini as the sun or the moon, and the sun being more of that kind of the way we develop our ego and our sense of confidence and so you're a sun in Gemini, and then the moon maybe being a little more internal around kind of our emotional needs and our mood and our processing. Gemini is really the sign of curiosity. It's ruled by Mercury. It's an air sign. It's really, I think at its highest incarnation, it's just filled with wonder, and it has the sign of the twins, right? Like perspective and duality and really youth, and play. And so to be a Gemini child and to be free to, wonder and question and ask and find out and discover is like so empowering for Gemini children. And I think there are lots of different ways we can facilitate and support that as parents. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, though, is, when our kids are toddlers, especially, right? Or when they're little, why? I mean, that just feels like such a Gemini question. Why, mommy? Why this? Why that? I think if we knew that our kids had a strong tendency towards Gemini, we would indulge more intentionally in answer. I mean, we should do that with all our kiddos, but I think really honoring the questioning is so important to Gemini children, and also their need to perceive information, and learn and understand. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways you can honor stimulation of like mental faculties, which is very Gemini, through puzzles, through games, through stories for sure. Gemini is definitely the storyteller, and we were like, you tell a story.
Yeah, I mean, I really related to that when we were talking before when I was thinking about my childhood, and I don't know that I always got the mental stimulation I needed. I did get a lot from my dad about like science and math and like concrete things, but maybe not so much like the emotional life that I think probably would have been really good for me. I didn't have that, but I did read and write from a very early age. And I mean, I remember writing an entire book when I was probably 9, like this whole Dr. Dolittle thing. And I wish I could find it. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't exist anymore, but it was really long. And I think that's what I spent a lot of time doing, was writing and reading and being in my mind, like that was the place that I just loved to be, for sure.
Yeah, like processing those observations. And I mean, what a magical observatory perspective when you have a childlike perspective versus an adult perspective. We're so ingrained with like how we should think and what makes sense, where a childlike, that sense of wonder is so key and important, and the freedom to just tune into that. Journaling is huge, especially for Gemini moon, because the moon really like having all of this like understanding of data within, your emotional data. I see a lot of adults too with the moon in Gemini that really, if they're feeling triggered or emotionally, stressed out, they want to find out why. They want to like understand what are all the pieces to that, or they want to really journal. I have a good friend with a Gemini moon who literally makes journals.
Oh, wow.
That's totally her, that's her craft. Yeah. So I think that's kind of interesting.
And related to that, I'll just impart a little bit of the positive parenting here. So when your children keep journals, please allow them to be private. Do not go dig through your kids' journals, let them process, let them have their space. The only time you would ever do anything is this, if you suspected like drugs and guns and like, I mean, super serious. Not if you expected them like going out past their curfew or whatever. That's not grounds. Because that's such a part of developing trust and keeping a good relationship intact, is being super respectful. And I don't know how many people that I know whose parents dug through their diaries and, you know, and would use it in really super hurtful ways. And that would discourage a child from being willing to diary. They would be afraid of being violated. And so it's really important to like, I'll encourage that, allow it. I think my grandma gave me one with a little lock on it. That was super fun for me. And really respect that. Don't let anybody violate the trust there.
Yeah, I totally respect that and honor that. And I think I had a diary or a lock journal too. And that actually, when you spoke to like giving space for that, like parents being able to give space for that, I mean, that's something that we were talking about earlier with the duality of Gemini. It really is like twins, the twins and the dueling perspectives, and the ability to just really explore that. And have the space to do that, whether it's like literally just having space to explore and kind of do your own, like let your child kind of do their own thing, you know, within safe, you know, support. But also even in the stories they tell and the imagination, like I think there can be if Gemini energy doesn't have the ability to have the space and the exploration of kind of perception and understanding, there can be a tendency to manipulate or make up, you know what I mean? Because Gemini can be tied to manipulating information. Well, they don't have to do that. They don't have to lie if they have a space, like you said, to journal their stuff, if they have the freedom. Do you know what I mean? Like to be able to really work with that.
To definitely to explore. And, you know, with little kids, and this is beyond Gemini, but just with little kids, they start off speaking what they imagine. So the little 2s and 3s and 4s, they're like, yeah, I have a big purple dog and I walk him every day. And parents will say stuff like, no, you don't lie. But they weren't lying. They were just dreaming and, you know, to manifest into their real, I mean, they're the perfect manifestors, and we discourage that by calling, and then they get confused. And we actually train our kids to lie when they go through that developmental stage.
Yes. No, I just love it. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So I have a whole business on lying, because we unwittingly do that as parents, where we don't understand this magical world of a child and how beautiful it is. And instead of accusing them of lying, to just say, oh, you wish you had a pink dog in the living room that you petted every day. And they're like, yeah. And he wished, you know, and they could go on. And there's no perception of a lie. It's just, and there's no problem with their processing of it. Like there was nothing malicious in their little magical thinking, and they can shift easily in and out of the fantasy and the reality. It's only our adultness that puts that label of lie, not truth, that confuses them and then teaches them like, oh, I can really get her good if I say this thing that they don't even understand is not true at that point, but it becomes understood that it's a way to push the parents' buttons.
Yeah. I mean, they're just perceiving. And honestly, there are so many times we say things that are true to us, right, in our hearts, and somebody else might take it as a lie or manipulation. And truthfully, it is all perception, which is really the core of Gemini, is perceiving and tuning in. And this comes through, you know, language and communication is very important. You know, I've read that it's really important to verbally affirm to your Gemini children that you love them, especially if you're giving them lots of space to explore. Make sure that you're communicating, you know, I love you, I'm here for you, like keeping that cord kind of verbally. But that need, you know, you're a Gemini, right? Like all over the place, kind of wondering here, that, and the other. I just want to go, you know, I think a lot about ADHD. I think a lot about how we've trained our children to like be still and focus, you know, and how that really kind of does a disservice on a lot of levels by not having environments that allow that exploration. Like we obviously all need structures and boundaries, like that's all important. But really would love to encourage, parents to really, before jumping to that, assumption or diagnosis, which could be valid, right? Like before jumping to that though, like maybe making space within ourselves to indulge some wonder and curiosity and shifting and, perceptivity or, perception of the environment beyond just this one thing you want to focus on. Perhaps they're hearing birds. Actually, I have to say this. I have a really good friend who's a Gemini, and I can be talking to her and we can be so deep. And this is so Gemini. We're so there. And then it's like, she'll be like, oh, there's a baby robin, blah, 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 blah. Here's this bird song, like, blah, blah, and it's just like, one, I think that's super cool. I love that. You're perceiving all of the bird song while we're talking about like deep emotional truth. How cool if kiddos can just have the freedom to.
I have to tell you, I work on that all the time because I'll be talking, like one of my very best friends, she has a particular sensitivity to friendships, not really being there for her. And with her, it happens even more often. And it's like, we'll be sitting talking and I'll just get distracted by something and lose my focus. And it's not at her. It's because I have this always looking at everything going on around. And I mean, you'll even see me when I'm sitting here teaching, I'm looking outside and I'm doing this. It's like, it's just like everything is calling me. And so with that friend in particular, it's like, I'm not trying to be rude or against her in any way. And I have to really focus on staying present in my conversation to be a good friend, because otherwise I can tell when I'm doing it. I'm like, oh my God, just pay attention to what she's saying. What's wrong with you?
But also communicating to her, as hopefully our kids can, to like join my world where I'm open to different, or your world, right? Like, and to not take it personally. And this is a little bit of a sides, but we're coming into Mercury retrograde, which everybody talks about Mercury. I feel like why not give it a moment here?
Well, I always feel like it's good for me because I'm Gemini, so somehow
I'm natal Mercury retrograde, so I'm like, sweet, maybe I can like go back and organize some stuff. But Mercury retrograde, so often people get really frustrated because things aren't going the way they want, or they have this plan and it doesn't go. Gemini is so mutable. We have Mercury retrograde in Gemini, so mutable and moving. I always hear this line during Mercury retrograde, or very weird mercurial times, which I think would apply to Gemini. It's like, listen differently. We use this one way to listen, that's just like, I hear your words. Often we're not hearing feelings. We're not hearing body language. Like, we're not hearing, I don't know, angels, or not, environmental pieces. Like, listen differently before we like take offense that you're not, listening. And sometimes you have to show up for your friend in that way. I get it. Or for your kids. But, seeing that in children and their need, maybe they're not ignoring you. Maybe there's just a lot to take in. And so giving space to do that. And also, like, I think, setting healthy boundaries and just supporting ways to do that are also communicating what others' or expectations can be sometimes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think that's always the balance, is containing the energy in a way that doesn't break their spirit.
Yeah. And yes.
So
I think that's key for Gemini. They get so put in that, you'll hear I don't think, two-faced. They're two different. Well, yeah. They're really feeling and tuning into a lot.
Yeah, I've always felt that way. Like I can totally see both sides of arguments. I can always play either way. I mean, the duality definitely lives with me all the time. Like that there's two of me or more.
But doesn't that feel like really compassionate on a level? Because it's like, if you can really rise above and analyze a situation without being so subjective.
Well, yeah,
it's actually kind of beautiful.
It's a good skill. It helps me work for sure.
Yeah.
Like that's part of, I can see the parent's position and the child's position. And I think being able to speak to the parents from the child's perspective is super helpful, because I can live in those shoes and get what that child's feeling and what might work better. And that's kind of, it's a gift, and it's
we need you for that.
It's definitely related to this this Gemini-ness, which I love. I mean, I think as a Gemini, we love being Geminis, us Geminis.
Yeah, you're hilarious. You're fun. You know, I totally support it.
Yeah, so it's pretty
Great
cool.
stories.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's that I like the thing that you said best. I mean, at least looking back from my own childhood, of really communicating your love verbally. Like maybe that's a little bit of what I missed. I think my parents communicated their love non-verbally a lot, in a lot of ways.
Right.
I think I got a lot of mental stimulation from conversations and everything else, but I don't know that I really got that emotional verbal connection that I so desperately needed. But I did get it from my grandmother. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. And so, you know, I feel like she was a Gemini too.
Oh, really?
May 24th. Yeah. And I didn't know that till later in life. And it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder we, you know, synced so well. And, you know, there were so many similarities and so much love and connection. I mean, she's still with me all the time. And I don't know, she probably died 20 years ago.
Yeah. You still hear her. You perceive her.
Totally. All the time. And I think that's a lot of why, like, she understood me like nobody else did. And it was most likely that similar connection we had in our personalities and the, you know, the way we were and how our planets were aligned for us.
Yeah. Well, you'll see that through generation too, like having similar to understand each other, I think. Let me ask you this, like another thing I was thinking about for Gemini, kiddo, like parent is like really helping with decision making, like, and follow through. I know I have a Mars in Gemini. Sometimes I can get really overwhelmed, or, you know, sometimes it can feel a little chaotic with all of the information and perception. Do you feel like helping, just with kind of making a decision and sticking, you know, you always can shift or maybe move, but let's choose. Do you feel like that would have been, or that's something that's helpful for Gemini?
Yeah, I mean, I think my experience maybe been a little bit off in that regard, because I feel like I didn't get to make any decisions, and it really seriously affected me. Like my parents were like, you do everything we say till you're 18 and la la la. And so I feel like I came out of home and like didn't know how to make decisions for myself. It was either against authority or complying to authority unwillingly. And so I had to really relearn how to make decisions. So yes, what you're saying is so important. If you could help
practicing that together.
Yeah, for sure. And like really seeing that this, I mean, I see that even with the grandkids that are young, you know, 7, it's like, you can make decisions, like think about what is the best option here, instead of just telling them what to do all day long. It's like asking those leading questions. What would happen if? What would the result of that be? You know, what have you seen me do when I get in a similar situation like that? Which you want to lead your kids to have thinking going on, rather than just, you know, do this, do that, go here, go there. They're just like, blah, and they're like dumb of it. Like they can't. They don't process anything when they're being told what to do. But when you ask a leading question, when you say to a kid, you know, they fall and skin their knee, and you go, well, what have you seen me do when I've hurt myself like that? And they go like this. What's that? When they go, it's thinking. Like,
it's using their,
they're like,
it's analysis, you know?
They're going
analyzing a situation, which is so key.
So key. And that's a huge part, I think, of what I teach, is helping parents get that finesse of question asking. You know, we want to be all smart and take all this credit, like I'm the wise one, I know what to do, and blah blah blah. But that doesn't help our children at all. They all say, I didn't learn it till I learned it on my own. And so for you to be the parent who says, what would happen if? What would the results of that be? What are your options here? And they choose the options that you would have chosen in your own head. And you know, but they feel like they've chosen them all on their own. You don't get any credit for it. And that is the true like power as a parent, is you doing this critical and creative work where you don't get any of the credit. The kid is fully owning all of their decisions, and but you've guided them there. Like you've done the key part, which is to guide them to where they need to be. And it takes work. It takes practice.
I love that. It feels really Montessori. Like I used to teach in a Montessori school, so that, always giving the option, right? Of what the choice is. But even when you said that creative parent, I just want to throw this, even though this is a Leo piece, they say the issue with parenting can be very Leo. It's like, I created this person. Now let me just like micromanage and not let go and totally identify with, I'm a Leo mom, so I know this, like over identify with their experience. But the true, like, that's why they say Leos need to learn how to like break up with their children.
Oh, how funny. That's
funny. And my kid just graduated, but it's like that piece of, if I've honored this creative process, then hopefully this is a being that feels empowered enough to make good decisions and choose and can support. Like that's the goal, right? Instead of like, look what I did,
Right.
Yeah, I love that. There was like one other thing. Oh, anyway, sorry if I made it weird. No. A couple other just Gemini things that felt just like kind of basic that most people probably know, but like definitely reading and books and experimenting and probably science projects, but like that, like the decision making piece going into like data collection. So it's like just seeing even growing seeing how things change over time, and then again thinking about it feels like really beautiful for children in general, but also Gemini children. And I was thinking about obviously like journaling when we're older, but I was thinking it would be really cool to support kids and having like, and I never did this to my kid, but like end of day kind of storytelling where they talk about and kind of somehow capturing that over time. And you know what I mean? Like this way of journaling before they can even write feels really cool for Gemini kids.
Yeah. And I think that's a great idea. And there's so many different ways to do this. And one of the things that we did is when I was raising my kids is we had an evening, like, your kids come home from school and you say, how was your day? And they say, fine. That's a no, that conversation goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Or at bedtime, let's talk about our day. Oh, it was good. Like that doesn't go anywhere. So again, you have to ask those leading questions. So we would do one, it was best, worst, and silliest. So what was the best thing that happened to you today? And then everybody could share something. What was the worst thing that happened to you today? And what was the silliest thing that happened to you today? And another family that I worked with, they did rosebud thorn. So you have to share a rose, like maybe something you're proud of, a bud, something you're working on, and a thorn, something that.
I love that.
Yeah. And so again,
cool.
It's that, well, and again, it's that specific, being specific, like not just this generic stuff of good, bad, okay, not okay, which again, there's no depth to any of that.
Yeah.
Really dig into the conversations. Then you can see who your kids are, who they're becoming,
right,
what their beliefs are. I mean, that's what you want to learn this. You don't want to try to push it into them. You want to figure out who they're becoming and then encourage and allow that to flourish. Like that's what you want to do. Your values are going to be instilled in them by who you are, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you treat yourself and others. All of that stuff is going to be handled. You don't have to do that overtly.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to just look and see, just to, for me as a Gemini kid to have felt seen and heard and understood, like that would have been the best thing in the world,
Yeah.
And it's one of the gifts that I can give children because I know how much I would have loved that.
Yeah. Aww.
Yeah. Thank you,
love
Jessica.
that. Aww.
So who are we talking about next month?
Cancer? Yes, girl. Cancer. Right. Yeah. Cuddles.
Oh,
feeling safe, home space. Yeah. We'll talk about our Cancer babies and how to make them feel nurtured and safe and held and all the things.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. I really enjoyed it, of course, because it's about me.
Yeah, no, I love it. You have you've got so much wisdom to share. I just love it, Debbie. It's great.
That's so cute. Okay, well, let's wrap this up then. And it was great to see and have the conversation. And if you have any questions, you can type them below and we'll answer them. And I'll see you next month. All right. Thanks, Jessica.
Bye. Thank